Chosen one, you created evil. You are no ordinary man. You are the chosen one, molded by the hands of destiny, the master of light and shadow. Your power is so great that those who could not stop you found the solution to create darkness against you. But they do not know that that darkness also came from your hand. They think they created the devil to prevent you, but the truth is that you have molded your own opposite to see your own limitations. Today, now, this moment is the beginning of your ascension. Whatever you have experienced until today, whatever you have lost, whatever you have been tested with, all of them have prepared you for this moment. No more hiding, no more silence. Your light is strong enough to split even the sky. So, chosen one, stand up and write 77 in the comments, for even the devil was created to test your power. And now, you are beginning to show your power to the world. The illusion they carefully constructed is crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. The one who believed they could twist reality to their will, shaping it with deception, now faces the undeniable force of truth tearing through their fragile web. Every falsehood, every distorted narrative, every meticulously crafted manipulation is unraveling before their eyes. They scramble to contain the fallout, grasping at the remnants of a reality they no longer control. But the reckoning has begun. The tide of revelation surges forward, unstoppable. The very fabric of their existence, woven from carefully managed lies, is disintegrating at an accelerating pace. No longer shielded by shadows, they stand exposed in the glaring light of consequence. The echoes of their choices ripple across time, drawing forth the debt they long ignored. What once could have been confessed in sincerity must now be extracted through trial. There were moments, so many moments, where a single honest word could have altered the course. But those moments have passed. The window of grace stood open, awaiting the simple act of truth. It closed with the quiet finality of fate fulfilled. The weight of silence lingers, growing heavier with each passing day. They miscalculated the nature of balance, failing to see that deception is not erased, only deferred. The burden they carry did not begin in this lifetime. It is the culmination of a pattern, a cycle stretching far beyond their memory. Their own energy betrays them. Those attuned to the deeper rhythms of existence felt the shift long before it surfaced. Signs whispered in the wind, in the pause between heartbeats, in the quiet, knowing that something unseen had already been decided. The warnings were met with dismissal, the truth treated as an inconvenience rather than salvation. Yet, cosmic order remains indifferent to disbelief. Concern, once genuine, is now met with deflection. The question of their well-being sparks resistance rather than reflection. The toll manifests in ways they cannot name, exhaustion that lingers despite rest, an unease that gnaws at the edges of their awareness. The mind adapts to deception, but it does not do so without consequence. The human brain is not designed to hold competing realities indefinitely. Neural pathways bend under the strain, memory falters, coherence dissolves. The past, once neatly compartmentalized, begins to bleed into the present. One slip, then another, each moment of inconsistency, a crack spreading through the fragile foundation they built. They feel it happening, though they refuse to name it. The whispers of doubt creep into their own thoughts. Did they say that? Did they contradict themselves? The weight of performance grows unbearable. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. And then comes the inevitable, the moment where reality asserts itself beyond their control. A simple conversation, a seemingly insignificant exchange, and the pieces no longer align. Eyes meet across the room, recognition flickering in the silence. No confrontation is needed. The truth is not revealed through accusations. It is exposed by its own absence. The unraveling is self-inflicted. The mind, exhausted by its own distortions, ceases to sustain the illusion. Those who once stood beside them, repeating their words as truth, begin to question. Doubt spreads, slowly at first, then all at once. What was once unshakable now appears fragile, brittle, unsustainable. They are not the only ones affected. Those who believed in them, who defended their reality, now find themselves entangled in a collapsing construct. Loyalty becomes liability. The weight of borrowed falsehoods is not easily cast aside. Yet, this is how illusions end, not with a dramatic revelation, but with quiet realization. The story unravels, thread by thread, until nothing remains but the undeniable. The moment always arrives, the instant when those who once stood guard at the gates realize they were shielding a mirage. Betrayal is never a solitary act. It is a chain reaction, a force that ripples outward, consuming even those who once called themselves allies. History is littered with those who mistook loyalty for servitude, only to watch their closest defenders become their fiercest challengers. Patterns emerge, repeating like echoes through time. The weight of contradiction becomes too heavy to bear, and whispers of doubt gain volume. One by one, those who once stood in defense take a step back, then another, until distance replaces devotion. A slow, steady unraveling begins, not through accusation, but through the dawning realization that they too were used. There is a moment when those who shielded the deceiver realize they were not protecting truth, but reinforcing illusion. The revelation is sharp, cutting through the haze of manipulation, leaving behind only the raw wound of understanding. What was once unwavering defense turns into something else entirely, something colder, more resolute. The deception was never a single act, but a series of calculated distortions, each one requiring complicity to survive. The knowledge of being a pawn in someone else's game burns deeply, and the need for justice takes root. One by one, those who stood beside them begin to step forward, no longer defenders, but witnesses. What was once protection becomes testimony. The more they try to control the narrative, the more it slips through their grasp. What was once whispered in secrecy now rings in open conversation, the weight of collective realization too great to suppress. It begins slowly, almost imperceptibly. The quiet deterioration of someone who can no longer outrun their own contradictions. Their mind, once sharp and calculating, struggles under the weight of its own deception. Sleep eludes them, and when it comes, it is restless, haunted by fragments of truth, clawing at the edges of consciousness. The mind does not forget, even when the conscious self tries to bury the evidence. The body, too, begins to protest, aches with no source, a heaviness that lingers, eyes that dart too quickly, fingers that fidget with unseen threads. They become prisoners of their own making, caught in a reality that demands constant upkeep, an exhausting performance where even the slightest slip is a crack in the facade. And then, the shift. Subtle at first, but undeniable. The collapse does not come as an explosion, but as erosion, slow and unrelenting. Their once commanding presence begins to fade. Words that once swayed, opinions now fall flat. The tone is the same, the inflection unchanged, but the weight is gone. The power of persuasion is not in volume, but in belief, and belief has been severed. The moment arrives when their voice is met not with attention, but with indifference. The air around them feels different. Conversations continue without their input. Eyes glaze over. Their very presence, once commanding, has become background noise. They speak louder, more insistently, grasping for the attention that once came effortlessly, but the energy has shifted, and the space they once occupied is shrinking. The moment of reckoning is never gentle. It does not grant dignity to those who have long evaded accountability. What was hidden now stands in the open, not through confrontation, but through its own weight. The carefully curated identity, the mask sculpted through years of careful deception, falls, not in a controlled release, but in an uncontrolled collapse. And what remains underneath is not revelation, but vacancy. The attempt to rebuild the illusion is futile. The cracks are too deep, the foundation too compromised. The more they try to reclaim control, the more evident their desperation becomes. And so they stand, exposed, with nowhere left to hide, the weight of truth pressing down with the force of inevitability. Imagine a field of golden wheat under a radiant sun, where every stalk stands tall in the promise of harvest. Yet when some choose to water their roots with poison instead of the pure rain of truth, even the mightiest of crops can wither away. Their downfall is not the work of an external force, but the inevitable consequence of their own actions. Just as a garden can only flourish when tended with genuine care, so too must our souls be nourished with honesty and righteousness. What once remained confined to whispered deceptions and calculated distortions has crossed an unspoken threshold, emerging from the shadows into the blinding light of accountability. There was a time when falsehoods were like fragile clouds drifting across a blue sky, a sight that seemed harmless and transient. But today, those deceptive wisps have condensed into a storm of undeniable evidence, forming records as solid as bedrock and proof as clear as the noonday light. In the realm of psychological manipulation, where every lie was a seed planted in secret, the harvest has come. What was once intangible has taken form, solidified into undeniable records, indisputable proof. The shift is unmistakable. What once belonged solely to the realm of cunning illusions now carries the weight of concrete repercussions, as heavy and unavoidable as the morning dew that gathers on parched fields. Friends, we must understand that every step we take in life carries consequences. The ledger of life has been opened wide, and every transgression is accounted for. In this divine economy, there is no escaping the natural laws of cause and effect. Just as a faithful steward must one day render an account of all that was entrusted to him, so too must every action be tallied in the great book of life. Every deceit, every carefully veiled manipulation now stands exposed like a record etched in stone. The system moves with a mechanical indifference that mirrors the unyielding passage of time, a reminder that our Creator sees all and judges impartially. This isn't merely a matter of personal remorse or moral reckoning. It is a cosmic accounting. You see, what began as emotional manipulation has now crystallized into actionable offenses. Terms like fraud, slander, misrepresentation, and false claims no longer float as abstract concepts, but have become the pillars upon which justice stands. Evidence accumulates in texts, emails, financial records, and witness statements, each piece a testament to the betrayal of trust. Like a master builder meticulously assembling every brick, the process of gathering proof is deliberate and unyielding. Every misstep, every twist of deceit now finds its place in the great mosaic of truth. In the eyes of the law, intentions are secondary to actions, and every documented lie serves as a stepping stone toward inevitable judgment. Legal consequences operate on a timeline that is slower than our emotional responses, but far more methodical and ultimately complete. Forensic psychology now maps out their behaviors with clinical precision, drawing parallels to establish profiles of past offenders. It's as if the scales of justice, weighted down by the accumulation of evidence, tip inexorably toward a conclusion that is as clear as the rising sun. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. There is a profound shift taking place, a transition from the personal to the procedural, from intimate whispers to the public record. The language of betrayal, once spoken in hushed tones, has given way to the formal cadence of legal proceedings. Communications once characterized by emotional outbursts are now replaced by a cold, meticulous wording that signals accountability. The very institutions meant to protect and serve now respond with an assured, deliberate cadence. Their past statements, once mutable and fleeting, transform into immutable evidence, recorded for all time. Their own words, once tools of manipulation, have become the testimony that turns against them. Brothers and sisters, take heart in the knowledge that the truth is an unstoppable force. Even when cloaked in the garb of manipulation and deceit, every falsehood carries within it the seed of its own undoing. Every lie, every calculated distortion is like a drop of water in the vast ocean of truth. Eventually, it joins the current, swelling into a tide that cannot be turned back. The day has come when every misdeed is laid bare, every transgression meticulously catalogued until nothing remains but the clear and unyielding light of accountability. This process is not a matter of swift retribution or vengeful anger. It is the slow, inexorable unfolding of divine justice. The consequences of deception stretch out on a timeline that mirrors the eternal laws of the universe, a timeline that does not rush but marches steadily forward. It is as if the hand of fate, guided by a wisdom beyond our ken, meticulously sorts through every act, every word, every silent omission, rendering a judgment that is as fair as it is inevitable. In this divine mechanism, confession offers no sanctuary. Each admission, no matter how soft-spoken or reluctant, builds the case against the deceiver, adding weight to the scale of justice. Friends, the language of accountability extends beyond the walls of our mortal institutions. It reaches into every sphere of existence, a reminder that nothing spoken, written, or done escapes the all-seeing eye of destiny. The familiar phrase, "anything you say may be used against you," is not confined to courtrooms alone. It resonates in every corner of our lives, from personal relationships to the corridors of power. Every interaction, every word, becomes part of a larger tapestry, woven with threads of truth and consequence. The system, indifferent to personal pleas and emotional appeals, operates on principles that are as ancient as they are unchanging. The meticulous documentation of every interaction, the preservation of every communication, transforms what was once a personal betrayal into a public record of indisputable fact. The consequences are not fleeting, they are enduring, a constant reminder that every action has its due recompense. Their transgressions have been recorded not just as a matter of bureaucratic procedure, but as a reflection of the immutable laws of morality that govern our lives. Let us not forget that this unfolding drama is not a matter of personal vendetta, but of cosmic balance. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, does not tolerate the distortion of truth. Every lie, every carefully spun web of deceit is counterbalanced by a corresponding measure of accountability. This is not merely a legal matter, it is a spiritual reckoning. When we stray from the path of righteousness, when we allow falsehoods to take root in our hearts, the very fabric of our being begins to fray. And just as a building weakens when its foundation is undermined, so too does our spirit crumble when built upon deception. In these times, we must remember the eternal truth that every action has its consequence. Just as a farmer reaps what he sows, so too will those who have nurtured deceit reap a harvest of accountability. The ledger of life is open, and every misdeed is inscribed within its pages. This is a call to all who seek to live in the light of truth, to understand that no act of deception, no matter how cunningly concealed, can escape the discerning gaze of justice. Picture a radiant sunrise piercing the lingering shadows of a long, stormy night, a new day breaking through, reminding us that no matter how deep the darkness, the light of truth will always prevail. It is a message of both warning and hope. For those who have found themselves caught in the snare of deceit, there remains a clear and open path to redemption if they choose to step into the light and embrace the transforming power of truth. Friends, consider this. The journey back to righteousness begins with a humble acknowledgement of our missteps. It requires that we lay down the heavy burden of falsehoods and turn our hearts toward the wellspring of all that is pure and just. This return to our true source is not just an act of personal healing, but a powerful testimony of our willingness to change. When we admit our errors and seek forgiveness, we are planting seeds in the fertile soil of redemption. Seeds that will grow into a mighty tree of grace and understanding. But let me be clear, for those who continue to cling to their fabrications, the consequences are as inescapable as the sunrise that follows the darkest night. Just as the morning inevitably dawns, so too will the reality of their actions come to pass, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and regret. The longer one persists in the labyrinth of lies, the deeper one becomes entangled in a web that will eventually choke the very life from their spirit. In the end, the cost of dishonesty is steep, and the toll is measured not only in broken relationships, but in the erosion of one's own inner peace. The road to recovery is neither short nor easy, but it is paved with the golden opportunities of renewal and rebirth. It demands a sincere transformation, a complete realignment of our inner compass to point always toward truth and integrity. Each step taken in honesty builds a foundation of trust that can withstand the harshest storms. It is through this process of sincere repentance and courageous confession that we are remade, our character purified by the fire of accountability, and our lives infused with the enduring blessings of genuine grace. Let us not forget that every day is a new beginning, a fresh chance to cast aside the shackles of our past errors and embrace a future defined by the brilliance of our true selves. In choosing truth over deception, we open our hearts to a divine exchange, a trade of our burdens for an abundance of mercy and our struggles for a harvest of blessings. Remember, the path of honesty leads not only to personal liberation, but also to the restoration of community and the rekindling of hope in every soul. So, let us step forward together with faith and conviction, knowing that our commitment to truth is a testimony to the power of transformation. As we journey on this road, may we always find strength in our shared resolve, and may the light of truth continue to guide us toward a life of lasting prosperity and peace. In this moment, let us stand firm in our conviction that truth, in its many forms, will always prevail. It is not the voice of a vengeful tyrant, but the gentle, persistent call of the Almighty, urging us to live in accordance with the divine order. As we witness the unfolding of this profound reckoning, may we also find the strength to examine our own hearts, to seek forgiveness where needed, and to walk the path of integrity with unwavering determination. For in the end, the record of our lives will be written not by the fleeting whims of fate, but by the enduring principles of truth and justice. And as the pages fill with the accounts of our deeds, may we stand proud, knowing that we have lived in the light and not in the shadow of deceit. The harvest is coming, and every soul must give an account. Let us therefore prepare ourselves by cultivating honesty, by nurturing transparency, and by embracing the timeless wisdom that every transgression is weighed against the promise of redemption. Now is the time to share God's blessings. By clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube, you can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. So, as we reflect on the inexorable march of accountability, let us remember that the path of truth is not an easy one, but it is the only one that leads to lasting prosperity and peace. The open ledger of life awaits, and every moment is an opportunity to inscribe a new, righteous chapter. May we all be guided by the light of truth, and may our lives be a testament to the enduring power of honesty in a world that so desperately needs it. What began as half-truths and omissions now falls under the scrutiny of systemic order. The language of personal betrayal is replaced with the cold, precise terminology of accountability. Documentation speaks where emotions falter. There are records now, messages that cannot be retracted, transactions that cannot be rewritten, statements that no longer exist in the safety of ambiguity. The slow, deliberate machinery of consequence turns forward, impervious to pleas or intentions. The past, once malleable in their hands, is now fixed in place, unable to be reshaped to suit their convenience. Awareness dawns too late. The realization does not come in a single dramatic moment, but in small, creeping recognitions, an unexpected formality in correspondence, a shift in the tone of interactions, the careful wording of responses that signal a transition from personal discourse to procedural inevitability. Their name is no longer spoken in passing, but recorded with intention. They once wielded words as tools of influence. Now, those very words are catalogued as evidence. Each sentence they uttered, each claim they made, stands as a monument to their own undoing. The idea of confession, once a means of regaining control, now holds no sanctuary. What might have been absolution before is now simply another entry in a growing case file. To speak is to solidify their role in the narrative they so carefully manipulated. Silence, too, offers no escape. Absence is merely another form of acknowledgement. The walls close in from every direction, not through vengeance or malice, but through the simple, inescapable reality that truth, once set in motion, does not stop